All right, and I think this is the last one I put here. So the next one we have is reckless. We already talked about reckless, someone who just doesn't care, doesn't think about the consequences. Warehouse,
Like this place where you keep your tools, supplies, stuff like that.
it's like a
Storage.
storage. Yeah, it's like
Storage, yeah.
storage. Yeah. Poverty,
Wretchedness.
okay.
Poor.
So poverty has to do with poor, but the idea behind poor is it. A lot of people think of poverty and poor as in like, oh, they don't have money, but that's not necessarily the only meaning. Poverty
Mm.
is to not have resources, to not have sufficient things. So you could be, for example, a lot of time people talk about like, oh, you're very nutrient poor, meaning your body does not have enough nutrients. So although the word poverty is very used a lot for not having money, it also just has to do with just not having a resource in general. And the last one is horrified.
Like, you're scared.
Yeah, you're completely scared. You're like frozen in terror and fear. So that's the idea behind horrified. So which word is going to best match destitution?
Poverty.
Poverty. So destitution is literally a synonym for poverty. If you look up the word destitution, you're going to see like in the list of synonyms, the first one that pops up is poverty because destitution has to do with lacking resources, to being very poor of resources. So poverty is going to be our best match. All right. Sounds good so far. Now we're going to take a look at some paragraph comprehensions. So before I do them, I want to kind of just break down to you the different types of questions you could see on the paragraph comprehension. So on paragraph comprehension, you can see word questions that have to do with like a vocabulary in the context. So for example, this very first one is going to focus on one word that is mentioned in the paragraph, and you kind of have to figure out the meaning based on the paragraph. Another one that you could see is like a detail question. So they focus on just one detail in the paragraph and they want you to kind of make some kind of conclusion based on that detail. Or it could be one of those that it's a general question like what's the main idea? What's the purpose? What was the author's tone? So all of that is just like a general thing for the whole paragraph. And then you have the ones that can get a little bit annoying, which is like, which one of these is not true? So you're kind of like looking for the contradiction. So what I always suggest for students to do when it comes to paragraph comprehension is read the question first. Before you read the paragraph, read the question first for two reasons. Number one, you're going to figure out what kind of question you have. And number two, as you're reading through the question, you might be able to already start focusing on what it is that you are looking for. So always read the question first before you read the paragraph. In this first one that we have, the question states the word hinder as it is used in the passage most nearly means. Now, we know this is a vocab and context question. We know we're going to focus on the word hinder and try to figure out what is the definition of the word hinder just based on what this paragraph says. Something that students always struggle with is they think that, oh, like, no, but I've heard of hinder before and it was used this way, whatever. Don't try to bring outside knowledge into the paragraph. These are like very what you call like open book questions. You have the paragraph here, focus only on what the paragraph is saying. There's no outside information that you're going to need to answer these questions. So here we have that at dawn, September, wow. Sunday, December 7th, 1941, Japanese planes attacked the U.S. Pacific Fleet at Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, in an attempt to cripple the fleet and hinder U.S. intervention in other Japanese targets in South Pacific. The Japanese military expected that Germany would defeat Great Britain and the Soviet Union, and that Japan would control the Pacific. The attack was proposed, not opposed. Okay, that was a typo. By Japanese Admiral, I don't want to butcher their last name, so I'm not going to say it, who cautioned against a war with the United States, but he was overruled. Although airfields, port facilities, and warships were severely damaged, and two battleships in Utah and the Arizona were destroyed, the attack mobilized the United States and signaled the entry into World War II. Today, Arizona is a memorial and a national park. So we're focusing on the word hinder. And I'm going to go ahead and highlight the entire sentence that had the word hinder, which is the very first one. So they mentioned that they were attacked in an attempt to cripple and hinder the United States. So, based solely on what this paragraph told us, what do you think is going to be the best, more or less, definition for the word hinder as it is used in this paragraph?
Wait, what's the question again? Sorry.
The question is, what does the word hinder mean as it is used in the paragraph?
Oh, the make difficult.
Okay, so does everyone agree? Make difficult?
No.
I think
No?
it's the first one. Break apart.
Weak.
Okay, so I'm getting a lot of different answers. I'm hearing weaken, I'm
Weaken.
hearing break apart.
Weaken.
Okay, so they mentioned here, so they mentioned that they wanted to cripple the fleet. So cripple means you
Really?
kind of like hit someone and make them injured so they're a little bit weaker. And hinder US intervention in other Japanese targets. So we're not trying to weaken the intervention. They try to weaken our resources. They try to weaken, the fleet by crippling it, but they weren't trying to weaken the United States per se in their intervention. So it's not going to be weaken exactly because they're not trying to like make our intervention weaker. Hinder is why did they try to remove part of our fleet?
Oh, so they could stop interventions with the Japanese.
Okay, so they were trying to stop the US from being able to attack the Japanese. So were they trying to break apart the US?
Yes.
No.
Why do you think no? So some of you guys are saying yes, some of you are saying no. I want to hear your thoughts. Why do you think yes? Why do you think no?
Yeah, I'm kind of lost. Why?
That's okay. So they're not trying to break apart the US. Not exactly at that point, at least. They're not trying to break apart the US. What they're trying to do is they're trying to make it difficult for the US to be able to attack back, right? If they have this base where their entire fleet is there and they attack the fleet, then all of a sudden it's going to be very difficult for the US to attack back if they ain't got nothing to attack with. So what they're trying to do is to make it difficult for the US to intervene. They're trying to make it difficult for the US to come back and attack. So they're not trying to break them apart per se. What they're trying to do is to make it difficult for them.
Thank
So
you.
the best match would be to make difficult. Now, obviously, one of the things it's obvious that is going to be wrong, which is the make stronger. In no place whatsoever in the
Yeah.
paragraph do they kind of make it sound like the Japanese are trying to help the US in any way, shape, or form. So it's definitely not to make them stronger. I do understand the confusion between like weaken and make difficult because again, they mentioned the word cripple and you're thinking like, dang, they're just trying to make them weak. But they made them weak by crippling them. But the reason was because they were trying to make it difficult for them to come back and join the war effort. So that is going to be the best match for the word hinder. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
Okay.